They called them just helpers. They said Filipino nurses were only good at following orders, not making decisions. Some even mocked their accents, their smiles, their kindness, saying it made them look weak. But little did the world know, behind those calm voices and gentle hands were some of the most fearless hearts on earth. For decades, Filipino nurses have crossed oceans, left their families, and started new lives in foreign lands. Not to chase fame, but to serve, to heal, to bring comfort where others gave up. They've worked double shifts, cared for strangers like family, and stood strong in hospitals where chaos ruled every corner. People saw their patients but never understood their power. They thought their smiles were just politeness, not realizing it was courage hidden in kindness. And when the world faced its darkest health crisis, when fear filled the halls of hospitals and nations didn't know what to do, these same overrated Filipino nurses stood tall. They didn't turn away, they didn't complain. They ran toward the danger, carrying not just medicine, but hope. The same world that once doubted them would soon kneel in gratitude, realizing that behind every mask, every tired face, every quiet Filipino nurse was a hero the world didn't see coming. For years, Filipino nurses were seen but not truly seen. They were in every major hospital, London, New York, Dubai, Tokyo. Yet their names were often forgotten. Many employers praised their hard work, but failed to see their brilliance. Some said, they're good at following instructions, but few noticed how they saved lives through instinct, compassion, and quick thinking. It was easy to underestimate them. They were humble, always smiling, never boasting about their achievements. But behind that humility were stories of sleepless nights studying, families they left behind in the Philippines, and dreams fueled by sacrifice. Some were told they'd never lead departments, others that their English wasn't perfect enough to speak to patients. Yet they stayed, day after day, proving their worth not with words, but with care that touched the soul. People thought they were replaceable. But time would soon prove that Filipino nurses were irreplaceable. Because what they brought into those hospitals wasn't just skill, it was heart, resilience, and a kind of humanity that no textbook could ever teach. Then came the moment that would change everything. The world faced a health crisis unlike anything before. Hospitals overflowed, nations panicked, and even the most advanced systems began to collapse. Doctors were overwhelmed, supplies ran out, and fear spread faster than the virus itself. But when everyone else froze, Filipino nurses moved. They were the first to volunteer, the first to show up, the last to leave. In countries thousands of miles away from home, they became the silent backbone keeping hospitals alive. They worked through exhaustion, hunger, and danger, not for glory, not for applause, but because saving lives was in their DNA. In London, Filipino nurses held the hands of dying patients whose families couldn't visit. In New York, they worked 16-hour shifts without rest. In Italy, they turned despair into hope by simply saying, "You are not alone." While others saw only chaos, Filipinos saw a calling. Their courage spoke louder than any language barrier, and their compassion crossed every border. At a time when the world needed heroes, Filipino nurses didn't just answer the call, they became the call itself. While the world watched from their homes, Filipino nurses were out there, on the front lines, battling exhaustion and fear every single day. Many couldn't go home for months. Some lived in isolation, afraid to hug their own children because they didn't want to bring the virus home. Others cried quietly in locker rooms after losing a patient, and then wiped their tears, put their masks back on, and went right back to saving the next life. They celebrated birthdays over video calls, said prayers during night shifts, and found strength in one another. Some lost their lives in the line of duty, their names written on walls of remembrance across the globe. And even in their final moments, they thought not of themselves, but of their patients. Their sacrifice was never about medals or recognition. It was about love, compassion, and duty. The kind of love that doesn't need cameras to prove it. The kind of bravery that whispers, "If I can help, I will." Then the world began to notice. International news outlets started telling their stories. Hospitals honored Filipino nurses with awards and tributes. In the UK, people lined the streets to clap for them. In America, families wrote letters of thanks, calling them angels in scrubs. Even presidents and prime ministers publicly praised their courage. Suddenly, the same people who once looked down on them were saying, "Thank God for Filipino nurses." Social media overflowed with stories, videos of Filipino nurses singing to patients, comforting the lonely, holding hands during the hardest goodbyes. Their kindness became a symbol of hope, their laughter a sound of healing. From once being underestimated, they became celebrated. not just as workers, but as heroes of humanity. The world realized that the Filipino nurse wasn't just a professional. They were a guardian of life, a healer of hearts, a light in the darkest nights. Everything changed. Hospitals began to see that Filipino nurses weren't just part of the system. They were the pulse that kept it alive. They moved from being quiet helpers to global role models of courage, compassion, and excellence. Nursing schools across the world started studying their resilience, their unique way of connecting to patients. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know, what makes a Filipino nurse so special? It wasn't just skill, it wasn't just training, it was empathy. That deep, genuine care that made patients feel seen, loved, and safe. They became symbols of strength for an entire nation, proof that greatness doesn't come from wealth or power, but from heart and humility. And now, every Filipino walking through a hospital corridor anywhere in the world carries that legacy. A silent pride that says, I am Filipino. I am a healer. Behind every Filipino nurse is a story. A mother who worked double shifts to send her kids to school. A father who left his family behind to provide a better future. A daughter or son who chose compassion over comfort. These are not just workers. They are dreamers who turn sacrifice into service. Every smile they give hides a story of struggle. Every act of care carries the love of an entire nation. The world may see their uniforms, but only few truly understand the heart that beats beneath them. A heart that refuses to give up. A heart that keeps giving even when it's tired. They are living proof that kindness is power, and that the Filipino spirit, humble, selfless, and unbreakable, can heal the world. So the next time you meet a Filipino nurse, remember, you're standing before a hero who has crossed oceans, faced fear, and chosen compassion over comfort every single time. If you're proud of them, share this story. Let the world know that Filipino nurses are not overrated. They are overqualified in heart, overpowered by purpose, and overflowing with love. Because when the world needed saving, they didn't just show up. They stood up. They didn't just care for patients, they cared for humanity. Filipino nurses didn't wait to be called heroes. They became them.